Good morning, Councilor Carroll and Councilor Burnside. If you are present, can you turn your cameras on, please, for quorum? Good morning, Councilor Burnside.
Hi there. Is our fearless leader getting the show on the road?
Good morning, everybody. Ready to begin? My name is Councillor James Pasternak. I'm the Chair of North York Community Council, and we do have quorum. Calling meeting 20 to order. Welcome, everyone, and Happy New Year. Although we're meeting in different locations today, North York Community Council would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga, the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Today's meeting is being held by video conference, is being live streamed at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. If you're registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I'll call speakers in the order they appear on the list. Speakers can be viewed online by visiting North York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Members, City Clerk has provided all the agenda materials at toronto.ca/council and on CMP, the Clerk's meeting portal. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? I do not see any. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meetings on December the 3rd, 2024? Councillor Cheng is moving it. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, let's do a run-through of the agenda. 425 Manor East, application to remove a private tree. We'll hold that item for speakers. $20.2, 94 Cortleigh Boulevard, alterations and demolition of heritage attributes of a designated heritage property. We'll hold for speakers. Item 323, series of addresses on Churchill Avenue, residential demolition. Councillor Cheng?
I'd like to move option 3 to approve the demolition with conditions.
Okay, Councillor Cheng has moved option 3. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 20.4, Green Gates Court, Subdivision, North York Assumption of Services, Registered Plans. Councillor Chernos-Lynn?
I'd like to move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 20.5, 724 Caledonia Road, designation of fire routes and amendment to Chapter 880 Fire Services. I have direction from Councillor Cole's office to move this item, so I will do so. I'm moving staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 20.6, 21 Overlea Boulevard, designation of fire routes, amendment to Chapter 880. Councillor Chernos-Lynn?
I'd like to move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 7, 33 Frederick Todd Way, designation of fire routes. Councillor Chernos-Lynn?
Again, I'd like to move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 20.8 is 36 Brentcliffe Road, designation of fire routes. Once again, Counselor Chernos Lynn,
Again, I'd like to move staff recommendations.
staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 20.9, Hillmount Avenue, traffic calming, speed humps. This is Counselor Cole, who is not with us today. I'm going to move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2010, Botham Road parking amendments. Counselor Cheng.
I'd like to move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved on item 10. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 11, Botham Road U-turn prohibition. Counselor Cheng.
Staff recommendations, please.
Okay, staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 12, Livingstone Avenue, accessible parking, reopening, North York 19.20. So we'll do this in two votes. The first vote is to reopen. All those in favor of reopening? And then the next part is adopting the following series of recommendations. We can put them on the screen, or if you've read them, we can just move them. I will move them on behalf of Councillor Cole. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 20.13, reopening North York 12.14, Bathurst Manor Neighbourhood Mobility Plan, traffic calming. First vote would be to reopen, and then I'll hold the item down. Is it ready? Okay, I'm advised that we can do all of this in one vote. How's that for efficiency? Okay, so we don't need a separate vote to reopen. I understand we can move the entire package, which has one late add-on, which is an all-way compulsory stop at Evanston Drive and Pardon. The Bathurst Manor, just very briefly, the Bathurst Manor Mobility Group was a project started before the pandemic. It was to create a holistic, neighborhood-wide approach to traffic management and safety, rather than a piecemeal approach. I just want to thank staff for all their work on that over the years. And this is fine-tuning some of the earlier amendments that were adopted. So I will move the recommendations before us. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Oh, the item is amended? Okay. And the item is amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Number 14, Victory Drive Standing Prohibition. This is tinkering with some parking issues and sight lines on. Okay, so this requires a motion to introduce. All those in favor of adding it to the agenda? Opposed? That is carried. And I will move the recommendations. It's something we work with on staff to improve sight lines coming in and out of a building that the current parking arrangements were creating sightline and dangerous situation.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'm virtual, and so I think it might be technology that just cut off. What's the address of this?
So the address is 2800 Keele Street. I am quite familiar
Keele
with
Street. Oh, okay.
Keele Street,
Just
but the amendments
cut
are
off.
not on.
Yeah.
But the amendments are not on Keele Street. The amendments are on a side street, and it was very generous street parking, which created sightline risk to the entrance and exit from a building, from the building there. So we work with staff to come up with this solution to shrink the on-street parking slightly so that sightlines would not be blocked when people are coming in and out of that driveway.
Okay.
Are you okay with it, or you want to hold it for?
Yep. Yeah. Good.
Okay, so I'm going to move.
what
I'm going to
part
move
of
the
town?
recommendations before us. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 15, improving safety on Bayview Avenue. So we need a motion to introduce. All those in favor of introducing? Opposed? That is carried. And Councillor Chernos-Lynn, do you want to move the recommendations? Do you want to hold it down? What would you?
I'd like to hold it down so I can speak on it. Thank you.
Okay,
Chair.
so we'll hold that down. And number 16, recipient of the 2025 Agnes Macphail Award. This is a letter from Councillor Chernos-Lynn. So we can hold it down because you'd like to speak to the item. And also, we want to deal with that first. We can do it right now. Yeah, if it's the will of the committee, we can take it as our first item, and Councillor Chernos-Lynn can speak to it.
So thank you very much. The Agnes Macphail Award was established in the Borough of East York to annually recognize an outstanding member of the community who upheld the values and causes of Agnes Macphail and who lives within the boundaries of the former borough. The recognition committee met for the Agnes Macphail Award as established in the Toronto City Council approved selection process. They met on January 6th, 2025 to review the nominations that were received and to select this year's award recipient. The committee selected Jason Ash as their 2025 Agnes Macphail Award recipient. And I would just note, we are fortunate to have Jason Ash with us today. He has been a longstanding volunteer in the Thorncliffe Park community. He has done a number of different projects within Thorncliffe Park, but perhaps he's most well known recently for being a co-chair of the Ontario Save the Ontario Science Centre organization and group. And it's really an honor to have Jason here in the chamber today. And I'm hoping that I could just present him with a scroll, and perhaps we could just do a picture with him very quickly, if that's okay.
Sure, that would be great. So let's do that. Jason, did you want to come down and we'll do a photo right here?
Thank you so much, and thank you to the committee for their indulgence, and to those who aren't in the chamber today for just giving us a moment to do this. It's really, Jason has been a tremendous volunteer in so many different ways that this is really, he's a great candidate for this. Thank you.
We're just jealous. Now we're not going to be in the picture. We're losing out, John.
Chair, could I say just a sentence?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Jason and deeply appreciative of his efforts to save the Science Center. He, and because of him, we will not go quietly into the night. We are going to continue the fight, and we have met with North York moms together, along with Councillor Matlow, to continue figuring out how we can save the Science Center. So this award is so well deserved because from all the things you've done prior to the advocacy, you're someone who sees something in the neighborhood that needs fighting for, and you rise up. And so we deeply thank you for everything you've done.
Yes, and I would echo some of those remarks. The Ontario Science Centre is a vital North York cultural educational institution that generations of kids went to, including mine on a Sunday activity. And we don't have enough in North York. So what we have to keep and hang on to. And so I thank you for taking that message to Queen's Park. And it's always great when grassroots organizations pop up and advocate for important issues. Thank you.
Can I just add that it's sort of telling that, something that's an East York award, but that it resonates so strongly with North York community councillors and the North York community, just goes to show how important that is to not just the northern part of Toronto, the eastern part of Toronto, but really like the GTA as a whole and beyond the borders of the GTA. So it's something that I think creates very broad support for, and thank you for being its champion, Jason. And you live just a few blocks from it, so it's local to you, but broad and resonates with so many of us. So it's really, this seems like a very fitting place to honor you as well as with this Agnes Macphail Award. Thank you.
Okay, so although we have to adopt the item, so all those in favor, opposed, that is carried. Okay, now we're back to the top of the agenda. Item 20.1, 425 Manor Road East, application to remove a private tree. We have a deputant, Farah Dabani Budhani. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us today. You have 5 minutes.
Great. Okay. So thank you to the members in attendance today. As you're aware, I'm here to appeal for the removal of our oak tree. So I've resided at 425 Manor Road East since 2010, and over the past 14 years, our oak tree has grown significantly. We have cared and tended to it by pruning, trimming, fertilizing, and even adjusting our pavers to accommodate its growth. The tree has grown far beyond the capacity of our backyard and neighborhood, yet we have continued to try to preserve it. Every spring, we install a canopy over our driveways to reduce the damage caused from fallen branches, limbs, and thousands of acorns. The growth of the tree has resulted in a canopy that spans over our backyard, our neighbor's backyard, our shared driveway with our neighbors, the sidewalk on Cheston Road, and the Morris Cody Teachers parking lot. So as oak trees behave, as we know, they shed acorns, branches, and limbs. And given the tree's size, this natural process has resulted in a significant safety concern for students of the Morris Cody Elementary School as they walk to and from the school on a daily basis on the path. So I just have a map that I'd like to show you just to really highlight how close we are. So this is my house, and this is where our backyard is with the tree. Our driveway is here, and then we share a garden. And so the canopy has grown so large that it sheds into the teacher's parking lot and over our yard, into our neighbor's backyard at 14 times. So in addition, the adjacent teacher's parking lot has also encountered safety concerns and damage. A single acorn dropping from around 6 to 9 stories high has led to cracked windshields and dented hoods. So I'm just asking you really to consider what would happen if should it land on somebody's head. So when the acorns rain down, our backyard is off limits to walk through, and the sidewalk requires supervision, which is truly unpredictable. Many days I've stood on where our driveway meets Cheston Road and have directed the traffic for the kids to not walk through that path. So we have spent close to around $16,000 caring for the tree, as we do want to ensure that the city continues to have green space and tree canopies. However, no amount of money can fund a hazardous environment. Principal Rob Hochberg from Morris County Public School has certified the safety concerns and has written a letter to share with the committee.
Just, sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair, but the virtual attendees, we can't actually hear what's being said right now or see the letter.
Oh, yeah, so just if you could make your comments into the microphone.
Okay, thank you. I've been told that you have the letter, so I was just reading out the letter. And previously, when I was speaking at the projector, I was just showing the map of the location. So as I was saying that Principal Rob Hochberg has written a letter to communicate his concerns as well. So he's mentioned that the oak tree drops acorns and branches at high speeds given the height of the tree, and the debris poses a safety concern for the students who walk along Cheston Road every morning and afternoon. So you'll see from the letter, my hope is that the safety concerns are evaluated with care and intention. That's from him. So finally, it is my sincere request for the removal of the oak tree in my backyard. The tree no longer only affects myself, my husband, and my 3 young children. And as described, the tree has overgrown its location and affects the neighborhood children and the Morris County staff. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions for the deputant? Councillor Burnside?
Thanks. Yeah. So, are these like large acorns or something? I've never heard of an acorn cracking a windshield of a car. And do you have documented cases of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the acorns have done it actually multiple times, and I have records from sending it to our auto shop to be corrected or to be fixed. And so part of the documentation that I had sent over to the clerk just shows the amounts that we've spent. So the acorns are, I would say, 2 inches, 1 to 2 inches. They come down quite at a vigorous speed, and they just rain down when it is. They go through a cycle every few years, and then there's this, that's how they speak to one another, the trees. We've researched a lot about acorns. And so every few years, there's an immense amount. So we collect.
Okay, so sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because my specific question was about cracked windshield.
Sure, yes, absolutely.
So do you have that document saying that you've had to replace your windshield?
So I do have it. I don't have it with me right now, but I'm happy to pull it up and send it over. Yeah.
Okay. So how old's this tree?
That is a good question. So I don't have
more than 50 years.
I would say probably more than.
Might
50
be a
years.
question for staff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's just an approximation. I'm fine with the 50. Morris County School, would that be 50 years?
That's more than 50 years.
Okay. And the documented cases of kids getting hit and injured by acorns is how many?
So I have done a really good job to prevent that from happening, but I can't always be there. So kids slipping on acorns, is it documented? Probably not. But Principal Hochberg is
Actually, it wasn't
aware.
slipping. You mentioned about. Sorry for interrupting. It's
No,
just 'cause I have
absolutely.
a limited time.
For sure.
That's why I do, and I apologize. I don't want to be rude. But we weren't talking about slipping. You're talking about acorns falling, of course you can't be there. But the fact that you can't be there, the fact you haven't been there for 50 years, would then lend credence to the fact there should be lots of documented cases of injuries as a result of falling acorns. Do you have any of those, or if not, that's fine. That's
So
only part of
no, I don't have any documented cases. The tree is only growing taller and taller every year, and so that's why the canopy has expanded to the Morris Cody community. So,
Gotcha.
10 years
Okay,
ago,
thank
it
you.
wouldn't have done that. It's doing that now based on the canopy. So I don't have any documentation about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No, not a problem.
Thank you, Councillor Burnside. Any other questions for the deputant? Councillor Cheng?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, I'm just a little curious because I'm looking on Google Maps and there is a distance between the tree and the school parking lot as well as the sidewalk. So is there really powerful gusts of wind that are carrying the acorns and bringing great speed to them? To be able to reach the sidewalk is a few hundred meters away.
Yep. So not only does it, like I said, fall from the very tall canopy that we can only prune going lengthwise. So we've really tried to reduce how much span there is. But you can only do so much because they can't climb all the way to the top anymore because of the size. And so our driveway is actually on an incline. And so not only do we have the height of the tree, we also have that incline. So we have both factors affecting that sidewalk.
No, so I mean the school parking lot.
So the teacher's parking lot.
Yes, so I guess, is it the wind that's carrying? Because there isn't actually any branches over the parking lot. So is it the wind that's bringing the?
So, I mean, that's a question for for maybe somebody who's aware of how that works. But I would imagine that the gusts are the debris from fallen branches are definitely falling into the parking lot. And so that could be from the gusts of wind.
And so the broken windshield was in the teacher's parking lot or your driveway?
That was ours twice. And then in the teacher's parking lot, a lot of them have fallen like on the teacher's parking lots. But I don't have any records of the broken windshield beyond mine.
And that driveway is your personal driveway?
Yep. So it's mine and my neighbors. We park in tandem. So 4 cars can park in that driveway.
And has your neighbor expressed any thoughts about this tree?
Yep. So my neighbor has also written a letter that is part of that documentation about concerns. And when we put up the canopy, it's a canopy that goes across both our sides of the driveway. It's one lot, and the canopy tries to cover the full, and we attach it to kind of like their tree, our tree. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Yeah, so the letter from my neighbor is also part of that package. I'm not sure if you want me to read it, but it's part of there.
Thank you, Councillor Cheng. Are there any other questions for the deputant? So I have a couple.
Of course.
So I'm looking at this photograph that's accompanying the staff report, and it looks like, I don't know, it looks like multiple trees coming out of one sort of stump here. But I don't see, I must admit, I don't see any indication of a sidewalk or kind of a pedestrian walkway or where. It looks like this is situated in the backyard of a house with other houses fronting it.
No. No, so our backyard, there's no houses behind our backyard. It's the teacher's parking lot. So it goes house, backyard, our shed, and then and everybody's sheds are lining the teachers' parking lot.
Sorry, I don't want to be argumentative, but
No,
have you
for
seen
sure.
this photograph in the staff report? I see houses, and I don't know whether I'm looking east or west.
Okay.
I see houses on the other side of the fence, so I assume those are backyards.
Sorry, can I show that image again? It's the same image.
Yeah.
So this is Manor East. Manor East. And our front of our house is on this side, so Manor East. That's where we're called 45. But our driveway is on Chester Road. So it goes house and then our backyard. And everybody else's backyard is here. And then we have a small shed. And then our driveway goes perpendicular and it hits Chester Road.
Can you point to the spot where the tree sits?
Yeah, so there's like, that where the yellow is on this side.
Where your finger is, that's where the tree is.
That's where the tree is.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the deputant before we wear her out completely? Councillor Chernos-Lynn? No? Well, it's questions for staff next. Are we done with the deputant?
I have no questions for
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Questions for staff?
I have
Councillor
questions
Carroll?
for staff, Mr.
Yeah, Councillor Carroll.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yes, thank you. I'm wondering if staff could comment. It took me a while there. I was listening, but I had to shuffle around and open my CMP to be able to see the principal's letter. The principal's letter doesn't say, could you please remove this tree? It says, could you consider safety concerns with care and intention? He's kind of walking a fine line here in his language, choice of words. I hate to make it all about that letter. But my question to staff is, can we address safety concerns with care and intention here? And how would we go about doing that while preserving what looks like a magnificent red oak tree?
Through the chair, that's a really loaded question.
Yes, it is.
The duty of care to the owner in this case is to essentially ensure that their tree doesn't cause unreasonable harm or risk to their neighbors or adjacent property owners or things like that. In terms of trees, that bar is actually very low, and this tree would far exceed that bar. And arborists such as myself really try to avoid using the word safe because it's such a black and white word, and trees are not. But in terms of high risks, in terms of major failures and the likelihood of those, without discounting that this tree may shed small twigs and acorns and leaves and things like that, we don't see this as a risk in that sense. And so from that perspective, the duty of care is met. And I'm not sure if that answers your question or not. I hope it does.
No, it does. It does. If anything, it demonstrates our dilemma here. I'm also confused about the concerns on Cheston Road, and I'm wondering if the staff arborist observed this, because similar to Councillor Cheng's questions to the deputant, I'm not on InView. I'm just on the regular Apple map that's on my iPad right now. But on the map that I'm looking at, it was taken at a time of year where you have full canopy. But because this house is it's not siding right onto Cheston Road, it's another house inward. The canopy, as I see it, of this tree, it doesn't appear to be overhanging the teacher's parking lot, and it doesn't appear to be making it all the way over to Cheston Road. There are two trees in the lot beside the applicant's lot whose trees are overhanging Cheston Road, but not the tree we're talking about today. Do you have any detail on what they observed in terms of overhang over school properties or school routes when the city went out to have a look?
Through the chair, the short answer is I don't have additional details on that. I have access to the same resources that you have. I'm not the person that inspected the tree personally, but we're
Right.
seeing the same,
Right.
we're seeing the same things in terms of the spread of the canopy. I will offer to answer your initial question about how things move around. When branches and twigs and acorns and things like that fall, they typically do so under windy conditions. So when the tree is,
Yeah.
the higher the wind, the more things are going to break. We call this self-pruning, where trees are, dead branches occur in the inside of the tree all the
Right.
time. And every owner has a duty to clean those up when they fall down. We even extend that duty to the road allowance if branches fall in the road allowance from private trees. But I would say that the stronger the wind, the farther things are likely to carry. And so that may be part of the owner's experience in that sense. And so I could certainly see debris from this tree falling in directions other than straight down, if that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Chernos-Lynn?
Thank you. My question is for staff with respect to the report that was submitted. I do understand there's some pushback from my colleagues on removing this tree that the homeowner clearly finds problematic and to be potentially dangerous and certainly a nuisance. If the committee were to find some sort of middle ground that didn't and allowed the homeowner to remove the tree, and I'm not saying that's what's necessarily, it doesn't sound like that's where people are leaning, but I understand the concerns that the homeowner has raised. Is there a middle ground if they were to be permitted? Could you just expand on what might be required of the homeowner?
Through the chair, at the end of our report, we embed what could be called an alternate recommendation. It would be the template language for an amended motion. If the tree were to be permitted for removal through this body, we would recommend that 5 replacement trees be the compensation required for that. And that would, obviously there's not room on the property for 5 trees. We would see that satisfied through a combination of 1 or more actual trees plus cash in lieu. And the standard rate for cash in lieu is $583 per tree not planted. That number, 5 replacement trees, is a recommendation from staff to community council, and a community council could choose to raise or lower it if they wish.
Thank you for
Great,
that.
thanks very much. I have one question which I touched on when I was speaking to the deputy. I'm looking at this picture here, and I've got to tell you, it doesn't look like 1 tree. It looks like 3 trees. Was that taken into consideration when the staff report was written?
Through you, we're calling this a multi-stem tree. If we go back to the tree's origins as a seedling, it may be that when it was a single stem the size of a pencil, it was lopped off at ground, and the tendency of trees is to grow back as multiple stems when that happens. That may be the case here. We don't know. It's even possible that, yes, it could be multiple trees with grafted root stems growing from multiple acorns, but functionally, we're content treating it as a single tree. At this time, the stems and the roots are all fused together. It's growing as a single entity, and we're satisfied that it works as a single tree.
Okay, all right, that's fine. We'll leave it at that. Thank you. Okay, speakers. Councillor Chernos-Lynn.
So I'd like to move the alternate recommendation from staff. Okay. We've just been asked for a pause, if that's okay.
So we're approving the removal.
I just, Matthew just asked for a pause, if that's okay for 1 second.
Yes, we can pause.
I think there's a little conference happening.
So, okay, so there's your motion. And Councillor Chernos-Lynn is approving the removal of the tree. All those in favor?
Are we still taking speakers?
Oh, I'm sorry. I do apologize. Yes, I can't see you, but Councillor Carroll, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize for being virtual. It's never my favorite circumstance. Yeah, I just wanted to speak briefly to it. I'm going to want to be recorded in the negative. I understand. I hear the challenges. I really do, but I look at the map, not just the photograph in the report, but I look at the map, and it honestly really demonstrates why we have a private tree bylaw. If you look at there's sort of a banded canopy here across 4 or 5 properties, and each is providing beautiful canopy in a neighborhood that needs it. We all know environmentally what tree canopies provide to the city, provide to the neighborhoods they're in, especially around schools. Schools have shade programs. How could we bring more shade to a neighborhood and around a schoolyard to keep kids comfortable? And while there are problems, I know that pruning and maintenance can help with them, and that is a property owner's responsibility. But I want to be consistent in my voting, because when I look at this picture, I remember why we made the bylaw almost 25 years ago now. Because you can imagine what would happen, if this tree is removed and then they proceed to re-landscape the backyard and do whatever they do because they're now in a different circumstance. And then the next door neighbor says, oh, what a beautiful backyard, I'm going to do that too. And then the neighbor after that says, yeah, that's a better way to handle a backyard. There's a cluster of trees here now, one in each backyard across there, that as they all disappear, that's the very reason we found that we needed a private tree bylaw, because one by one across the city, that's exactly what was happening. And that's when we realized that we needed to protect, use the legislative force that we have to protect not only the trees that we put on the public rights of way, but to have some regulation around the trees that are on private lots. And so I want to be consistent in my voting. There lots of times in Councillor Cole's ward, Councillor Burnside's wards, where I've had to say no. I just want to be recorded in the negative on this one as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other speakers?
Yes, please.
Yes, Councillor Burnside.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Pasternak. I'm not a passionate tree person by any means. Councillor Carroll will attest to that. We often see things differently. But coincidentally, I have an acorn tree in my next door neighbor's yard. It's a big tree and it drops acorns. I go from year to year. It's different. I don't love them. I don't love picking them up. I don't love the sound when they hit the roof. But at no point would I ever suggest that tree be cut. And I try to apply the same standard for others that I would apply for myself. I do not like that acorn tree, that oak tree with all the acorns. But I have to say that at no point have I worried for my safety or that of the neighbors' kids that come over to use the pool, or for my beloved dogs. So the reality is, I see zero reason or rationale. Respectfully, we all see the world differently. I see zero rationale to approve the cutting down of that oak tree, which, as we know, oak trees, hardwood trees, and they take a long time to grow. Those are my words in 1 minute and 20.
Thank you, Councillor Burnside. Any other speakers on the item? Or we can just vote? Okay, so we're going to have to do a recorded vote because I think it's going to be very close. We'll put the motion on the screen The local councillor is moving approval of a permit to remove. All those in favor? Councillor Chernos Lynn? Opposed? Councillor Burnside, Councillor Carroll, Councillor Cheng, Councillor Pasternak. And so that motion loses. I will move the staff recommendations to deny the request. All those in favor? Opposed? You want to record it? You're good? Okay. Then that matter is dealt with. The staff recommendations have been adopted. Item 20.2, 94 Cortleigh Boulevard. We do have a speaker on the item. Okay, Ellie Aaron?
I'm here.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. One moment. Okay. You should be able to see my screen now. My name is Eli Aaron, and I'm speaking to you as Vice Chair of the North York Community Preservation Panel, which is appointed by City Council to advise on heritage planning matters in the North York District. We are pleased to be supporting the recommendations of heritage planning staff to permit the alteration of the building at 94 Cortleigh Boulevard. Built in 1914, the William Weeks House is an architecturally significant estate house located in Ward 8, neighborhood of Lytton Park. The house was threatened with demolition in 2022 when it was listed for sale. 94 Cortleigh Boulevard was nominated for protection by our panel, and it was subsequently listed on the Heritage Register in 2023. Last month, City Council adopted staff's recommendation to designate the property under the Ontario Heritage Act. According to that report, this property is a representative and fine example of a suburban estate home from the early 20th century, inspired by the arts and crafts movement. It is also important in defining the character of the neighborhood. Following the sale of the property, the new owner has requested permission to alter the house. The proposed alterations include the relocation of 2 front facade window openings and the demolition of the rear veranda to accommodate a new 1-story rear addition, which would not be visible from the street. The owner would also undertake much needed restoration work to restore the exterior of the house, including repairs to the masonry, slate roof, windows, and doors. Heritage staff have recommended approval as these alterations would retain the building's architecture and heritage value. So here's what the house looked like when it was built, and this is a rendering of the restored house that the applicant is proposing. Back in 2023, the previous owner had protested listing this house on the Heritage Register, making typical claims that the property would not be able to be sold. The house was not possible to renovate, that it might become derelict, it had no architectural value. Each of the previous owners' arguments against the listing have been proven wrong. When a property owner protests heritage protection with these arguments, the accuracy of their claims must be called into question. Community activism, excellent work by our heritage planning staff, and the decision of this council to protect the building at a critical moment have given it a second lease on life. This report is an example of how historic homes can be simultaneously restored and adapted to the 21st century with the right mindset. Municipal government has an important role to play in protecting the cultural heritage of our city. Our panel is thrilled with the result of this process, and we are looking forward to the renovation of this historic home. We want to sincerely thank the new owners and the staff at Heritage Planning. Once again, we'd strongly encourage you to adopt the staff recommendations. Thank you, and I would be pleased to take any questions.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions for the deputant?
Just a quick one,
Councillor Carroll?
Mr. Chair. Yes, thank you. Just a quick one. Hi, Eli. You've really summed it all up in your deputation, but I'm just wondering if just to let us know, because I think, I can't remember, but I think you've been around since the original fight on this one. This is really a case of whether or not you approach a property as it's just any old property and let's overlook the heritage versus I think in the report, what we see here is they actually went to the trouble of hiring an actual heritage architect. And that's why we're finding out you can renovate this. We're not trying to be obstructionists. We just want you to use heritage professionals to address a heritage property. Did that architect, did ERA make a presentation to the panel? Is that why we're seeing such a ringing endorsement?
So you are correct. So the new owners of this property, which clearly were okay with the heritage listing because it was listed on the heritage register before they purchased it, retained ERA architects who are architects that specialize in heritage restoration projects. And yes, they've developed a conservation strategy working hand in hand with our heritage planning staff at the city, and there's a ringing endorsement from heritage staff, and we are echoing that. We haven't met actually with ERA, but we were involved with getting the property listed, and we did the initial research on the property, flagged it initially when it was threatened by demolition, and we reviewed the report, the alterations report from heritage staff.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you and the panel for this is great work by appointees. I'm really pleased, and especially thanks to the owners for taking this approach. Really excited to see their finished work.
So are we. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Who was that? Councillor Carroll. Okay. Are there any other questions for the deputant? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Ellie. Questions for staff? Speakers.
I'll just speak quickly,
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Councillor Carroll.
I just wanted to speak quickly because, man, this is a perfect example of the work that our civic appointees can do when they're working with our staff. This was very difficult when it came before, and the former owners were really compelling in trying to convince us that you just couldn't do what we were asking them to respect the heritage and still end up with a home that was even remotely livable. and it was a dilemma for the council councillor and a real struggle to have to stand our ground, having listened to the heritage community. But man, oh man, what we've proven here is that you can have a property listed, and particularly when it's a single family dwelling, but it's of this size, you can list it, you can put it on the market, and there is a market out there for people who do want to hire a heritage architect, respect the heritage. And when they do, here we are really collaborating to make sure that they can modernize and make it livable on the inside and still respect the attributes that we're trying to maintain. And so I just wanted to outline that. I'm assuming we're of course going to go with the staff recommendations here because they're so supportive, but that when we honor their work and create the situation where they can do this work, this is the result. I'm really happy to see this back in this way. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other speakers on the item? No? Okay. Unfortunately, the local councillor is not here, but I've been given carriage of this, and the instruction is to move staff recommendations. So that is what I'm going to do. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Last item is item 15, improving safety on Bayview Avenue. Councillor Chernos, then you held the item down. Was it questions for staff?
I don't really have questions for staff. I just wanted to speak to the item in general at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Yes, she's going to speak. You're going to speak. Oh, yeah, no. Does anyone else have questions for staff? No? Okay. So, Councillor Chernos, then we're on speakers, and you can speak.
Okay, thank you through the chair. This motion asks that the Director of Traffic Management and Transportation Services review the Toronto Police Service incident report for the accident, the terrible, terrible accident that happened last week near Bayview Avenue and Moore Avenue on January 2nd as a matter of urgency. And that they undertake, that the Director of Traffic Management and Transportation Services undertake a safety review of Bayview Avenue from where it comes off of the Bayview extension and goes up to Moore Avenue, really in the middle of a parking lot where the Loblaws is, and there's a Rexall on the other side. It is it's been noted as a dangerous intersection for a long time in the community, in the Leaside community, but there was a truly horrific crash there. People coming up off the Bayview extension are traveling often at high speeds. We of course don't know yet. There's still a police investigation that's ongoing. So we don't know the exact cause of the accident yet and all of that. But I would just, I want to communicate to the public and the community, and the committee, that this issue has actually been raised over the years in Leaside talk. But also, when I was campaigning, I heard about it from a number of residents. And in fact, in the 2 months that I've been in the role as city councillor, we've actually had some calls and emails to our office about this exact site. Traditionally, people talked about hitting a pedestrian that was crossing, walking to the pharmacy or to Loblaws. It wasn't so much a crash per se of the type that happened, but it has been this is an important reminder of kind of the terrible things that can happen. And so I'm really eager to see this move forward quickly. I do want to just commend the heroism. I don't know how many of you saw the news reports about this, but there were some young men from the neighborhood who heard the crash, came out to see what happened, used very quick thinking, grabbed a fire extinguisher because the vehicle burst into flames and there was someone who was trapped inside. They extinguished the fire, they broke the window, and it was one of the young men was a graduate of RMC, Royal Military College, and they really used their quick thinking and bravery to save this young person's life. They got him out of the car and to safety, and he has survived. So that is a tremendous thing, and I will be looking for an appropriate way to commend publicly these young men from Leaside for their bravery. They really are an inspiration to so many, but they made such a difference on this day with their quick thinking. But I really hope that everybody will support this and recognize the urgency of this. And if you have ever driven that section, I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads in this room. You know that this is an important piece. And I would just add that when I was on site after the accident the next day, we were witnessing people, like I live in this community, so I use this often. I've often thought about this, but I saw people using it in other ways too, where they were taking a hard right after they came in to go behind the grocery store into the neighborhood where Lee Crest and Mallory Crescent are. So this is a very dynamic, complex street within a parking lot, coming off essentially an expressway into a neighborhood. So I think this will be a really important piece for transportation services to look into, and also for community to provide input on into how it's used. And I see Shelley nodding her head. She's obviously driven through this before. So
Guilty
anyways,
of use
thank you
of
for
that
indulging me
intersection.
with all this. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Chernos-Lynn, and certainly the story you've told is really reflective of heroism. Okay, so we're going to be voting on this unless there are other speakers. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And that is the last item of the day. We're going to do the bills now. There we go. Councillor Cheng.
That Bills 3 to 11, prepared for January 9th, 2025, meeting 20 of the North York Community Council, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to Section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor Chernos-Lynn, would you like to read the confirmatory bills?
Sure. The confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceedings of the North York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 20 on January 9th, 2025, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to Section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Chernos-Lynn. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That concludes our business for today. Thank you, city staff. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, clerks. Thank you, IT. And thanks, members of the public, and of course, councillor staff. Enjoy the rest of the day.